Today we're talking about books, about a very important subject to me, if you follow anything else that I do. Birds. The Audubon Society Encyclopedia of North American Birds. This is a book that I had when I was growing up. Not this book exactly, because I don't have that copy anymore. But I remember asking my dad, hey, do you have that book? Does somebody have that book at some point since I was a child? And he said yes, but then just bought me a copy online and mailed it to me. Because that was easier, and he didn't have to give up the one that he had there. Originally published at $75. You can't see that when it's off screen. This is a fantastic book. As an adult looking through it now, it is extremely useful. It's an encyclopedia. I mean, look at everything. They've got photos. They've got detailed things about all the various birds. So much. Here's the finch family. You want to learn more about the sparrow rufous-winged? Here's everything. Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah, probably. Some cooperative and some odd methods of food getting. Some birds practice flock family. It's just incredible. And I had this when I was a child, and this didn't dawn on me. That's a great picture. Look at that. It didn't dawn on me for a very long time that I had this as a child. It's been 5 or 6 years, I don't remember off the top of my head, since I started going out looking at birds and taking pictures regularly. I didn't realize that I was doing that as a kid by looking in the book. I talked about how I had binoculars in another video, and that was something that my dad's dad had, and then my dad had, and we would look at birds. That was what you looked at with binoculars. We were told specifically to look at birds and other things that we wanted to see close up and not go looking in neighbors' windows, because that's not cool. So we never did that. But we did look at birds, my siblings and I, more me especially. And I remember this book specifically because of the bald eagle on the cover. I remember this clear as day, and I remember sitting down, I believe my grandmother on my mother's side gave me this book. I think. I don't remember. I was a very young child. This was less than 10, maybe 8. When did this come out? This 1991 edition. Alright, well, so maybe this came out when I was born, but I don't think, unless my grandmother went, he has freshly been born. I'll buy him a bird book and give it to him in 10 years. Or 6 or 8 or however long it was. I just remember at some point we had this book. And I remember sitting down with her and looking through the book together. And I think at that point I was so young, I was just looking at the different pictures and not at all reading all this. And to this day, I still don't sit down and read all of this. I have used it on multiple occasions, especially looking up things about the sage grouse. This is where I learned that sage grouse grow what they call snowshoes, which is growths over their feet to protect them while they're walking through the plains during winter and the snow. Didn't find that information anywhere else. But I found it here in this encyclopedia. I highly doubt that I'm ever going to sit down and just read this like a book, front to back. It's not really that kind of thing. It's an encyclopedia. But I should be using it more to look up. I had to dig this out of a box. I haven't used it in quite a while. I did have it the first time I sat down to do research on picking birds for the year. I used this as a reference to go look and see if I could glean any cool information to then share on the video. Haven't gotten much use out of it yet because it's been packed away in storage. It's a ginormous book. Don't have a lot of room for it. But it will make an appearance in the future for more wildlife stuff because I will be looking things up once we move and I have space to put gigantic books on a bookshelf instead of packed up in boxes. But this is not the only bird book that I have. It's just the one that probably means the most sentimentally. Even if this isn't the exact copy I had as a child, it's the same book. The first book that I bought was the National Geographic Field Guide to Birds of North America, the 6th edition, and I bought it on sale for $10. Because I was going out and I was starting to see birds, and I wanted to identify them. And to this day, I've used this book more than anything else. It is still my go-to. This is what I use. You've probably seen it in other videos when I've been trying to edit when I've been recording myself while I'm editing and while I'm identifying birds, this is the bird book that I use. It's not the most up-to-date version. As 6th edition, it was back when I bought it. But it doesn't look like they specifically put, there's a copyright of 2011, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know, I bought it in 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there when I started taking pictures with birds. Something like that. It has been monumentally useful. I do want to get the new updated version. I actually bought a used copy and sent it to one of my siblings because they were starting to see birds at a feeder and not know what they were to identify. And I went, well, clearly you have an interest in something that I have an interest in. Let's share that. Bought a copy for like $8 of, I think they're up to the 8th edition now. 7th or 8th, I don't remember exactly which one it is, but technically my sibling has a better, it's a more updated copy than I do. Not better, but things do change from time to time. If I've only got the 2 books to look at, I do have one more. Sibley Guide to Birds. David Allen Sibley. Genius. And it's very similar to the last one. I like it a little bit better in different ways. I like specifically they've got, let's see if I can just flip to one here. They've got your individual ones with illustrations. You do want illustrations. You don't really want pictures. The encyclopedia is really great that it does have pictures because they're cool to look at. But if you're trying to identify, pictures can be so different. And as we know, I know especially, cameras can be so wildly different. Colors can be displayed differently. It's not always a great reference that you're trying to, when you're trying to identify something, right? You want an illustration of what the most common bird is going to look like, the common variation to that particular type. Here is what I really like about this book specifically. They have an overview page for all of the birds that fall into these categories with quick images of these. I've been meaning to get little sticky notes, to quick reference and put one on each one of the pages with overviews so I can just quickly jump between them. There's pluses and minuses about both, right? The National Geographic bird book had little cutouts on the side for quickly getting around. This one doesn't have something like that, so I do kind of have to jump back and forth between them. But this has been another one to help me look at all the various sparrows. It's been really useful in identifying birds. Those two, National Geographic and Sibley's Guide to Birds, are the 2 main books that I use in order to try to identify birds. Now we get into books that I don't really use as much, but still like to have on a shelf and it's still neat to look at. Book of North American Birds, Reader's Digest. This my dad bought for me and sent it to me because I started doing bird-related things. So within the last few years, he sent this to me. It's really cool. Apparently this was from somebody named Bradley for Christmas of '96. And they also kept track of various birds that they saw. I don't know what the numbers are. Is that how many they saw? That's a lot. 178 of great-tailed grackle? That can't be right. I don't know how they did that. Maybe this is over a lifetime. I'm not sure. But anyway, I like seeing that. I like seeing the history of something like that, especially in an older book like this. I think this is older than I am, if I remember correctly. 1990? But it is really cool. They do have a lot of information here. They specifically go into a lot of detail on the area, give a lot of, they all kind of have a general sense of things like that, but this book more so than anything else. I remember when I did look through this book, it's got guide areas. Here's where you could go in Wyoming to see birds. The national park, the National Elk Refuge. I almost made it out there. Yellowstone. I almost made it to some of these places before we wound up moving out of them. Gives you the best time. They're not the most up to date anymore because this book is 30 years old, but it's really neat to see. It's a great resource. It's really cool to do that. I like having it on a shelf as well. Now, at one point, I got a gift card from my job, and I went, cool, what can I get with this gift card? A bunch of used bird books. So I ordered a bunch of used bird books. We've got Eastern and Western National Audubon Society field guides, little ones here. They've got pictures, which is really cool. They're mostly pictures. Not so much anything else here. There's some stuff in the back. I guess they've split it up. I don't use these very much. I just wanted to own some more bird books so that I had more resources that I could look through. So I guess they've got pictures at one half of the book, and the second half has the information. They didn't actually put them together. Is this one like that too? Yes, it is. That's an interesting thing that they have there. I don't know. Haven't really used this. Similarly, the Stokes Field Guide to Birds of North America was another one that I picked up used because I didn't know. Oh, that's interesting. I'm glad somebody already blanked that out for me, so I don't have to do it. I didn't even notice that was there until now. This was another one where I went, this is really cool. I've seen that one. But it is pictures. Again, not illustrations, and everything I've learned about it, illustrations. But I do like looking at the pictures. The American Coot, I've seen them more recently too. I like looking at the pictures as well. This is cool. Not a great resource as far as what I try to do when I'm trying to identify, but it is a resource, and it's something, and it's a bird book that can sit on a shelf, and I can pick it up and look for inspiration and go, have I seen this one? No, I haven't seen either of these, but maybe I could. And then I'm in the West now, so I thought it might be a good idea to pick up Field Guide to Western North America. Again, still not using this one. This one's also older, but it's still National Geographic, so it has the same kind of thing. At a certain point, I just wanted to fill out a bookcase with more bird books, have more resources should I need to. And it's interesting to see the way things change between the years. There's a lot of birds that are no longer called what they were before because science and ornithologists have determined them to be different, and so they've had name changes. And some of the books will list them and go, this is what we used to call this, we no longer call it that, we now call it this. Old world birds is what they call that. The last two books that I have to talk about that I own at this point in time, as of May 2023 when I'm recording this, are also by Sibley. Sibley's Birding Basics and Sibley's Guide to Bird Life and Behavior. I did read all of this. I talked about that not that long ago. Within the last year, I read this entire book to try to better myself, to try to learn more. And it's very much, it teaches you where you go, how to consider what time of day, about the birds, how do feathers work, things like that, but on a more simpler level. It was fascinating. It was really, really useful. This was an excellent resource. Honestly, probably read through it again at some point. But I have moved on from that. I'm not too far into it, but I have started reading this one because this is you can see I'm 18 pages in. I just started reading it this week. But it has a lot of resources, a lot of information in here. And this is one that I will want to read front to back. It's just going to take me quite a while. That is a postcard that was sent to someone that we are not going to show an address there. Anyway, the point is bird books, right? I like bird books. I like birds. This helps me identify. Birds. This is how I do what it is that I do. I go out, I look at birds in the field, I come back and I flip through the book and I figure out what it is and I do my best to identify them. Some of them are really, really tough. There's a lot of hybrids out there that don't quite match what the book shows. But those are the two that I use for that. And then the other books fill up a nice bookshelf. I think it goes without saying, but bird books, this entire thing is something that I really like.